To order. Almighty God, you have blessed us with memory, reason, and skill. Help us to use them wisely in the service to our town government. We ask this in thy holy name, amen. We'll salute the flag. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you all for coming. Anyone in the audience would like to address the board in public
Yes.
session?
I would.
Okay.
My name is Alan Favreau, and I presented the town board with a document just over a month ago, February 9th, on, I would like the board to address the issue of the cell tower that was approved by the zoning board on the end of the Matot Road. And I did file an Article 78, but there are two issues. It's, the Article 78 is opposing the decision, but the board itself did not follow many zoning laws as written and as I understand them. And I don't know how many of you went through the binder that I submitted. Is anybody care to say if they did or not, or?
I did review it.
Okay.
It was lengthy and there was a lot of work on your part.
Yes, yes. So what I did is a summary, and I'll pass out a summary with just the key points. Because I don't want to take a lot of time for the board here. And I'm addressing the board because I believe the town board appoints the chairs of the planning board and the zoning board. Am I correct?
That is correct.
So you are ultimately responsible for the decisions that they make as the chair of those boards. So if they made or did not follow laws as written, then you are, as a town board, as responsible as them.
No, it's not true. We appoint boards. They serve a certain length of term. They're reappointed mostly. We have a new attorney, new board attorney since this started. Tom Bernane is no longer the zoning board or planning board attorney. Matt Favreau is. This was reviewed by the previous attorney. He walked the zoning board through this process
Yes,
several times.
yes,
It was appealed, their decision was appealed by you
yes,
to a county Supreme Court justice,
that's correct.
and the county Supreme Court justice ruled in the favor of the town, if I'm correct.
Because like I said, there's two different issues, is opposing the decision and the town zoning board of appeals not following the zoning laws. So
I beg to differ with you, only on the argument was that the previous attorney that walked that zoning board through that process
Right.
said everything was legal.
Well, I would like to review this with the board here, and the documentation in that binder details that the zoning board of appeals did not follow a lot of many of the zoning laws. So, first of all, cell towers are not permitted on residential land in the town of Champlain. That's what the zoning law says. But yet the tower was approved for that location, which is residential land.
Did they get a variance?
They held meetings, hearings, but they weren't advertised correctly, and we'll get to that in a minute. So if the meetings were not legal, then if they weren't announced correctly or legally, then the decision should not be legal.
Okay?
Okay, so number two, as we're just discussing, to be specific, the public announcements only stated a special use permit. They did not state a use variance or an area variance. and they were identical publications to me, to the neighbors in that area, for both meetings on April 20th and June 5th. So basically, they could only discuss a special use. They could not discuss a use variance, an area variance, or vote on the total application, because the total application needs all three variances.
Right now. Here. Just wait, I went through this as we're talking. Thanks.
Would you like to stop there while you,
No, go ahead.
No, keep going.
okay. During the zoning board, number 3 on the list here, during the zoning board, 2 meetings, April 20th and June 5th of 2017, as I said, they were not allowed to discuss anything but the special use. As I also was at the meeting of June 5th, I stated and handed a document to the board, and it was in the minutes. There was conflicting information as presented by the applicant, Horvath, and this falls under zoning law, Article 10, Code 130-74, letter E, misrepresentation, which requires an application to be revoked. Number 3, the site plan trespasses across land owned by someone other than the person named in Horvath's application request. In other words, they were trespassing across New York State land when the vote took place. So whether it's my land, anybody on the board's land, you cannot vote on something when it trespasses against somebody over or on somebody else's land. That's illegal. Okay, and the last one in this section, the tower, what was stated at that meeting, and by several members of the Zoning Board of Appeals and the attorney at the time, that the tower has a mid-height built-in breakaway point. In other words, the tower is 140 feet tall, and it was stated in documents for a lawyer for Horvath, I believe from the Albany, Schenectady area. I have their names. They stated in writing that there is a built-in breakaway point, and the lawyer brought it up at the meeting on June 5th. But the document from the tower manufacturer, who is Sage Industries, states that one or more elements may fail. There is no such thing as a midpoint breakaway. So therefore, the area variance was approved, and it's sitting right up against the Interstate 87 southbound lane. About 30, the tower itself is about 30 feet from the interstate fence. From the fence to the southbound lane, I'm guessing is maybe 50, 60 feet. If the tower were to fail in its entirety, or the majority of it, would land on, or could land if it fell in the eastbound direction, you know, not perpendicular, but at an angle of some kind, it could land across Interstate 87. It is also too close, within the same footage as I just mentioned, to the Matat Road. And obviously, the Matat Road is used by local school buses, probably not today, but you can't say a year from now what's going to happen. So it is a huge safety issue that was misrepresented at the Zoning Board of Appeals meeting And that's why it was approved at that specific location, which is, as I stated, it's not true. There is no such thing as a built-in breakaway. If you read Exhibit W, it says one or more elements may fail in the tower. It doesn't say where, most likely at the top, because that's a weaker point in the structural steel. That's common sense. But in some research that I've done, that there is approximately one cell tower that falls per day around the world. So, okay, we'll move on to number 4. The Zoning Board of Appeals meeting on April 20th was approved by the board with the knowledge of the tower site illegally trespassing other than the landowner. It's like, common sense tells me you can't vote, as I stated earlier.
So just to that point, you're saying the tower was placed in New York State right away?
Across, their access driveway
Okay.
was going across New York State land.
They were notified. No.
Alan, I
Right,
really
well,
don't know.
it says right here in the motion that was made that there's a condition precedent that if any permits are needed with the New York State DOT, that the applicant will comply with those before it's installed.
That's because the day, April 20th meeting, the town, Julie or Jane, at this office received a letter from New York State Department of Transportation, and I'm the person who called them because I know that the state owned land or part of the turnaround. And they submitted a letter to say, oh, wait a minute, you can't do this. But the board plowed through and said, oh, we'll approve it, and if you need permits, you need permits. Well, the town zoning board only had to walk down the hallway and check their own records or look in Horvath's application, and a copy of the Schenck deed is in there. And that deed stated clearly that New York State marker here, 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 here. Well, if Schenck owns on one side, then New York State Department of Transportation owns the other side, not the town.
Right, so I guess I don't see what the concern is. The board approved the application pending them complying with any DOT right of ways.
And they did not apply for any permits still to date that I know of.
So that's a project issue. That's not an issue with the board and what the town did and what the board did. That's an issue for the project.
Because they moved the driveway, and the next meeting approved the driveway being moved down westerly down the road to go around New York State land. But the motion, if you read it carefully and accurately, it says, we approve it with the condition you get the permits.
Right,
And they elected not to get the permits.
because they decided they were gonna move it and not need the permits.
They decided to go around. Well, then,
Okay.
the
so that's-
approval is void then
No, it's
because.
not. Read it. We approve this as presented with the condition that if any permits are needed, the project then decided they were gonna move it, so no permits were needed. So that comes out, it's approved.
No.
Yes.
It's approved,
If permits are needed, you have to get them. If permits are not needed, you don't have to get them, you're approved.
and they changed the site plan.
Okay, but that's a different question. The permit issue is gone. Not even an issue to argue anymore. Because the approval said, you're approved, if you need permits, you have to go get them.
We approved this site and everything you presented as is, but you have to get the permits before you proceed.
Only if you need permits. If you don't need permits, you wouldn't have to go get them. They
That's
changed what they were gonna do to obviate the need for permits.
that's not the way the motion is
I'm reading
written.
what you provided in your binder.
Well,
So I'm just telling you, that issue is done.
I gotta know where this is gonna go, because our attorney, our zoning board attorney at that time
right.
went through every step with that board.
And
I
he's the same person who sat at that meeting and said there's a breakaway point in the tower.
I don't wanna get into the details of it.
So.
I believe that our zoning board attorney at that time proceeded with great caution.
It's a safety issue, and I will not have a choice but to go public
Well, that's fine, Alan.
Okay? But I'm asking the board
To what?
to address the zoning board.
We cannot overrule the zoning.
I know you can't overrule it, but you can sit down and talk to them and say, why? I have one question at the end here, and we'll get to it in a minute.
Town supervisor would advise the zoning board to always proceed with legal advice, which they did.
Well, how come I've got such a laundry list and submitted 60 pages?
Alan, that's your list. When this was presented to the county Supreme Court justice, I believe he read everything in your book. Everything, all your correspondence.
He probably did, but
It
it
took him
was
four-
beyond the 30 days when I submitted it, which it was illegal and they won.
Okay, then that wasn't our fault either, so to speak. It took that man 4 months to rule on that. I don't believe the county Supreme Court judge made a hasty decision.
I don't believe so neither, but
Okay.
I said there's two issues.
Okay, what do you expect or want from us?
I would like this board to try to deal with the zoning board of appeals in moving the towers. I'm not opposed to the tower, I'm opposed at its location. Okay? It's like,
The location has been approved, it's been challenged in the court, and is.
well, it is now a huge safety issue because of the false information that was presented.
Well, certainly that is of your
So
opinion.
what was the lawsuit that was commenced?
I filed an Article 78 on my own.
Okay, and that's the one
Judge
you-
Powers.
Oh, he's phenomenal.
What?
He's phenomenal and very thorough. So you filed an Article 78 challenging the zoning board's decision, and that decision was then upheld by the judge?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, and basically, it was upheld because I did not include, it was not done on a timely basis. I was beyond the 30 days, and that was because they're using the April 20th date as the official date of approval. So when the June 5th meeting that I attended, it was already beyond the 30 days. So basically, I was waiting to see the final decision because there was a condition in the approval, but the 30 days had already lapsed because they're going back to the original approval.
So I guess going back to Supervisor Barkman, I don't understand what you're asking this board to do. There was a ZBA decision, you filed an Article 78, which is the correct procedure. A judge reviewed those decisions and affirmed the board's decision and conduct. What do you think this board can do that a Supreme Court judge did not?
The Article 78 was thrown out because it was not filed on a timely basis, and I just explained that because of the April 20th approval. But I thought, well, it's not really approved until after the June 5th meeting, which 30 days had already passed. So filing an Article 78, it should have been thrown out the very first day. The second issue is I did not, because I'm not a lawyer and I don't know, is I did not include the landowner, Carl Schenk, or Horvath and all of their partners, you know, like Verizon and that. So basically, I was just filing it against the town boards and the zoning board of appeals. So basically, it got rejected because of not filed on time and not including everybody that I'm supposed to.
Going back, Alan, to my knowledge, it was approved by the local board. It was appealed. The county Supreme Court judge ruled in the town's favor. You have an appeal process, which I believe has gone by now, if I'm correct.
Yes?
That would have been your avenue. I cannot, I don't believe this board would consider, we can't legally,
I don't believe this board can direct the ZBA to do or not do anything.
okay? So,
You sound a little bit iffy on that statement.
Well, I'm not aware of any mechanism by which this board can do that.
Correct.
they're independent boards that have their own authority to do what's in their purview. This board can't say, hey, ZBA, you have to approve this application, or you have to do this or that. That's out of the powers of
But
this board.
It's who enforces that they follow the zoning laws as written?
The attorney at that time that walked them through the process told me that he followed every step properly.
Yes,
Who do I have to believe other than the attorney that we trusted, we hired? He gave good advice.
well, like I said, he sat right here on the end when I was here on June 5th and said, there's a breakaway point at mid-height.
Okay.
I remember that specifically because it's like, I've never heard of a breakaway in the tower.
You might correct me, Matt, if I'm right or wrong. When I went to the judge, the county Supreme Court judge, if he found something in there that wasn't quite right, maybe, he might have sent it back to that zoning board to a review. Apparently, he didn't find anything.
Like I said, he rejected it because of not filed on time and not
You say he
including.
rejected it. He rejected it after 4 months of review. So I'm sure he went thoroughly through that.
He may have went through it, but automatically he would reject it.
But tonight, Alan, I don't know what to tell you. I don't know where to go with this. We are not, the only advice I'm gonna have for either the zoning or planning boards is strictly to follow legal advice, which was done. That's the only
So,
advice I could possibly
so
give.
what about following the zoning laws as written?
Alan, that is your opinion. The attorney at that time has a different opinion than you have.
Okay,
So what can I do?
so may I finish the document? There's only 2 more.
Please,
Okay.
we're out of time.
Number 5, the official documents produced after the zoning board hearing meeting produced for their own records, and the records were inaccurate and false. They stated not what was in the motion, that there was a condition. The official report said pass, basically, and it's exhibit
Okay.
in the book. Okay, so it's like making up your own rules anyway. So why have the meeting if you're just going to put in documents what you want at the end if it's not what was discussed or voted upon? Okay? And to back me up is how come the town boards, which would include this board, received a memo stating that general municipal law 239M and town zoning laws were not followed correctly. So why would the county planning board submit a memo to this board, the planning board and the town of Champlain zoning board of appeals like that if it wasn't true? And
I
the
can't answer that
exhibits.
question. I have no answer for that. I'm not sure they did that. I see it in writing here.
Right, and the exhibits in here, would you like me to read it?
No?
Okay. And basically, if you want any of the details, I'll supply anybody with the 60-page document. Okay, but I do have one question, is why is the town so invested with the tower at this specific location, breaking so many zoning laws? It's like, just move it a little bit so it's not a public safety hazard. It's also close to my land, which will devaluate my land, that's how it originally started. But it's now turned into a safety public issue. So, I think that this board needs to address it because it is a safety issue.
I understand your concerns. I didn't say I agreed with them. I said I understood them.
Yes,
This board, I don't believe, has any intentions of taking any other action other than following the county Supreme Court's ruling.
so,
I believe this.
so the safety issue is not a concern to this board or this town.
I am
It's
sure.
like the kids being shot in Florida, that things were brought to officials early enough, and so if a tower falls, people don't care.
If it did fall, would it be anywhere near your land?
Just 200, around 200 feet. They moved it,
Okay?
you know, they moved the site, but
Tower fell right from the base down, the whole tower fell down, it still would not reach your land.
unless the wind moved it, but if it fell directly, but I'm saying, it's not just devaluating the value of my property, it is a safety hazard to unknown travelers. And if you travel down Interstate 87, I do not believe there are any towers sitting about 30, 40 feet from Interstate 87. There are several towers in Shazy.
Do you know how far that's from where the fence is, maybe, the state fence?
Yes,
How much further is it to the pavement?
about 50 feet. So a 140-foot tower will definitely, falling within a range or an angle, will or could cross southbound Interstate 87.
I don't know where to go with this, other than the fact that the county Supreme Court ruled on it.
I would just suggest to Mr. Favreau, if you consult with an attorney. There's a lot of, if you think there's something that can get done, then you need an attorney to walk you through it, because these are complicated, intricate processes. You've seen what happens if they're not followed, and that's the best advice I can give you at this point.
I do want to bring up that according to town law, we cannot override the
I'm not
town.
asking you to override, I'm asking you to discuss it with the zoning board and say, look, a lot of issues were not. You appoint these people.
You keep saying that, but the attorney at the time said they were. And who are we to take advice from?
How about your own advice and looking at the documents? And, you know, it's not attorney opposed to me, it's like, look at the documentation for yourself and make a sound decision. To say, look, did they do the publications in the Press Republican the way they were supposed to? No, they did not. That's proof. Did they copy from the motions to the document? No.
Well, I know what you're telling me, I hear you, but I know what the attorney told me.
And like I said, aren't you able to also evaluate yourself as board members rather than just rely on somebody's word? It's like,
When
you,
it comes to legal advice, none of us sitting here has legal expertise whatsoever.
and neither do I.
So I
But
have to
you
rely upon-
you do have copies of the zoning law,
Yes.
and you're just like me, I'm not an expert at this, it was a huge learning curve for me that laws were not followed,
Okay.
multiple laws. There was misrepresentation at the zoning board meetings.
Okay. I hear you, I don't say I agree with you. I hear
Now, I do have another question that I brought to the meeting on June 5th, that there was misrepresentation in the application, in Horvath's application. And signs posted on the Ridge Road, on the Valley Road, they're in the binder, it says, any violation of the law, zoning law, will be prosecuted. And I presented misrepresenting facts at that meeting, so who is supposed to impose those infractions and fines on the members who do not follow?
you. You're telling me they didn't follow the rule. The attorney at the time said they did. So what can I do? Can I tell that attorney he doesn't know what he's talking about? I can't do that. I believe the man has vast experience in zoning laws.
And
If there's a violation of a zoning law,
yes,
the town attorney, which would be me, can prosecute that. This situation though, this person came in and applied,
right.
public was noticed, you were here for both of these meetings.
No, I was not.
You
Just
were here for that meeting. Your concerns were heard at that meeting, I'm sure. For whatever the concerns were, from A to Z, they were heard. the ZBA board voted to grant certain things. They granted those things. So at that point then, if this person complies with what they were granted, meaning you can put the tower here, go ahead and do it, and he does that, there is no zoning violation at that point, because he was granted the ability by the board to do it. So there's nothing we could prosecute. There is no zoning violation at that point, because it's different. If he never came to the board and just put a tower up on somebody's backyard, that's a zoning violation. He was given permission to do what he did. Therefore, there is no zoning violation in this particular set of circumstances.
So if there's conflicting information in Horvath's application, a simple one is, as I stated in the 60-page document, that the zoning, school district was stated as northeastern Clinton, but it's not, it's Shazy Central. A simple, like look on the tax document, where do you pay your tax, the school taxes? But there were more offensive document errors
That
in
may
their
be the case,
application.
but to your question, it doesn't mean that there's a current zoning violation that can be prosecuted.
But I presented them before the final decision on June 5th.
Okay, but they made their decision based on the information I have, which included your concerns. They still made a decision.
But they didn't address my concerns.
Okay, but that's up to them as a board. They can hear concerns from a million people. They don't have to take every one of those and make a decision based on that. They take all the information they have at their disposal and make their decision. That aside though, my point is, this applicant was granted variances and relief by the zoning board. He's complied with what he was granted, therefore there is no current zoning violation based on these set of facts. Whether or not the application was bad, presented bad information, that's a different question than is there a current zoning violation that can be prosecuted. That's what the Article 78 proceeding is there for. It seems like that is now over with. For whatever the reason it's over with, it's over. To me, that means the zoning board's decision stands. Which means there is no zoning violation that can be prosecuted. This person has a valid, whatever he's got in his hand, variances from the board to do what he wanted to do.
So if there's a violation after, I will come to you. Is that correct?
If you think there's a violation, you are more than welcome to bring it to the town. If they want to refer it to me for investigation, myself with the code officer of the town will look into that. If the code officer believes there's a violation and wants to issue a ticket, he can do that. I'm then the person that goes to court to prosecute the violation.
We thank you for sharing your concerns with us.
I just, it's not right. Everybody sitting here knows that it's not right as a safety issue.
Well, that was addressed with legal counsel.
So
We went-
it's too bad.
Every step of this procedures, we had legal counsel. This is
The documents prove that there are zoning law infractions. You cannot prove to me that, the Press Republican articles were done correctly
Okay.
and,
Okay.
so on. As I mentioned, it's like just,
The attorney at the time said that things were done in proper order, and that was the opinion that we certainly have to abide by. I thank you. Do you have any other questions?
no,
Thank you. Rodney, would you like to address the board for any reason?
Not right now, I don't.
Okay. I only have a public forum before the meeting, I don't have one after, but you certainly can talk to the
Oh,
board.
I thought there was one before and one after. One at the
No,
end.
there used to be years ago.
Not anymore?
No, you're good. Nope,
Okay.
I wouldn't get too excited. Okay. A public forum is not required, if I'm correct, but it's a courtesy that we give to our public. And it's a courtesy we don't want to take away from the public,
Okay.
to have the ability to address the board in public session, okay? That's what I was always told. I was president of school boards and different things. But we certainly don't want to ever quieten the public down if they have a concern they want to share with us, okay? You are on the agenda tonight.
Okay,
I will allow you, if you have questions, while we're addressing that issue.
okay.
I don't have to, but I would, it is not a problem, okay? In fact, we wanna take that one first, guys?
That's fine.
Yeah, for 6 minutes of time, so they can
That's
go
fine,
through.
that way
Yeah.
they can.
If you don't, okay?
Oh, are you leaving the public session then?
Pardon?
Are you leaving the public session then?
No, this is public session,
Okay.
not a problem. Okay, it has to be done in public session. We have a resolution, everybody's got a copy of it, I assume.
What's the resolution to speak?
Pardon?
I don't know.
This is
I'm
for
sure
the-
I have it here, but I don't know.
Okay. Resolution, our attorney drafted it for us.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's it.
Legal counsel all the way, guys. It's a resolution to the town, of the town board of the town of Champlain in the county, in Clinton County, state of New York, granting consent to abandon a portion of the highway pursuant of section 205 of the highway law. Matt, you wanna go ahead and do, how you,
So basically, what the resolution is to abandon a certain section of the Lapeer Road, which is also known as the Old State Road. The description for what's gonna be abandoned in this resolution, just so you guys are aware, came from your attorney. This is how he wanted that legal description of the roadway abandoned, okay? He described it as being about 301 feet of roadway, starting at a point just beyond the repaved portion and beyond the driveway of Donna M. Fletcher and Rodney Seba Valley property, and ending at the barricade for the old bridge. That's the description he wanted. So the resolution on the table, to summarize it for the board, is there's an allegation that appears to be true based on conversations with the highway superintendent that the town has not maintained, repaired, plowed, whatever, that section of road for at least the last 6 years. Seems like it's longer than that, but the law states at least 6. If that's true, anybody, and it's these property owners at this point, are asking the town to consider that road abandoned, therefore it's not public property anymore. It would become their property. The deed references that you have, and thank you for dropping those deeds off, those are contained, they basically just say, the individuals here own the land around that, this abandoned property would then become part of their property. It would be up to them to perfect their deeds, and their attorney knows what that means and knows how to do that. The highway and superintendent would cause to be recorded in the town clerk's office, the above written description we just talked about, and he would sign something kind of confirming that that has taken place. So the resolution on the board basically, the resolution on the floor for the board is basically to decide whether or not the town is going to abandon that section of roadway pursuant to Highway Section 205, and Highway Section 205 just says if you haven't maintained it for 6 or more years, it can be abandoned, and it should be abandoned. Does that sum it up as far as you two are concerned?
Right, and and the road has been closed since 1990 because when the county closed the bridge, that closed that road. And then when I purchased, I own one side of the road, since '84, and then in '98, I purchased the other side. So since '98, I've owned both sides of the road.
Yep.
So so basically, if you go by the highway law, after 6 years, it's been automatically abandoned anyways. So all we want to do is the town to file the paperwork in the county clerk's office.
Yeah, that's basically what this resolution does, is resolve that issue and direct the town highway superintendent to file that paperwork, which I can prepare for him so he can sign and get it filed.
I do have a comment here that says beyond the driveway. Does that mean that you're coming further down past our driveway, or you're stopping these prior to? Because the pavement ends
The
prior
best I can tell you is
to.
this is the exact wording that your attorney wanted, so I can't give you that exact answer because he came up with this wording, not me, for that paragraph.
I've got copies in here, he put it at where the pavement ended. If I'm reading this correctly, and I may not be according to what you mean, that would mean that they could come beyond our driveway, which is beyond our property line.
Yeah, I think he wanted to, right there, right at the property line, right where the town ended their new pavement. We just want to make sure, if we're going to do it, we're going to do it right once and
No, I
not.
agree, I'm looking at what he's emailed me, what's in the resolution, it's word for word what he wanted. And then when we looked at the maps, that tended to make sense to Alan.
Now, it's easier to fix it now than it is after it's been done.
The portion that we're abandoning, is it paved now?
It's been, it's paved, it's got a pavement there, but it's an old, it's what, when Joe Phaneuf was superintendent. It's oil and stone,
Okay.
so it's pretty much, you know, it's breaking away, it's breaking up now.
I know what it is.
So.
But if there's new pavement, almost,
To where?
Is it
passed through
Yeah. The new pavement stops right at our line.
Where it's the line? You have no problem with pavement to that line, so the new pavement?
No, I don't have a problem with that.
Okay.
That's already been done. Yeah. Alan did a good job there.
Does anybody else have any questions? Well, if I'm reading this correct, I'll read the last paragraph. It now therefore be resolved that the town board consent to the superintendent of highways and direct such superintendent to file and cause to be recorded in the town clerk's office the above written description, the one we just read, of abandoned roadway signed by the superintendent and the town board. And this portion of the roadway shall be discontinued.
Could that be changed to ending at the point of the, where they discontinued paving? That's where our property line is.
That's the property line.
Well, is that pretty much what it says now?
No, it says at a point beyond, and that's where our issue came in before, and where the neighbor was coming on to us and then went to the state police, and that's what caused the problem.
Yeah, I mean, I don't wanna change this description without talking to your attorney about it, because like I've three different ways in here, this, we could table this for a month and get that exact if you want. You know, I could,
Yes, that would be fine.
so,
Talk to
you know, the board could then, I could just redo that one portion and I'll have the board vote on it next month, so it's exactly the way you're comfortable with.
Well, I prefer to have it done all at once and be, you know, instead of doing two different.
Can you just mark up your copy tonight the way you think it should be, so I can talk to him about that specifically? He and I can get that nailed down, and then I will draft a copy of the new proposed resolution, send it to him, he can review it with you, everybody can sign off, and we'll just table this for next month.
Okay.
Is that okay?
Yeah, that works.
Okay. So we just need a motion to table this resolution for
I'll make
until
that
next month's
motion,
meeting.
table the resolution.
I'll second that.
Thank you. All in favor?
Aye.
Right.
Thanks, guys.
No, thank you.
No problem. You gonna move on to stuff other than the golf course, but I'm just more than that.
Yeah, get that copy back.
I'll get it, yeah, Lord and Beth, I'll get it from on your way out, thanks. I'll wait for you guys out here, okay?
And I'll take the other thing we had on our list. Champlain Town Court.
No, they're just beyond, they're not quite.
And beyond,
You have this,
Can't go beyond the
town court. Okay, court respectfully requests funds to be authorized in an amount of $1,579.20. Securing two desk sets from the W.B. Mason Company. This is, we're in Janice's office in the court. W.B. Mason is offering the court, a 60% state discount. So, okay.
Is this the grant?
Pardon?
Is this the grant that Troy was able to?
No, this is over and above the grant. Had he known, he could have included it in the grant, but it cannot be addended onto it now. Okay?
So the full amount could have been, so this 1579 is what the town's responsibility is,
Yes.
correct?
You see on the second page,
Yeah.
total list price, 3,900. Supposed to show you what's made on those things.
Is this the
Okay.
desk, the Jones?
We did check with the,
Yeah, for Janice.
make sure we had the money to pay for this. Okay, it's a real upgrade. They need it. The new safes, what are they, safes,
Okay.
filing cabinets, I guess you call them, but they're terribly heavy, they're made of cement steel, I guess. They've arrived, they're in the court, excuse me, in the highway garage for storage. We're waiting for some work to be done in the courtroom itself before they bring those in. So,
7 acres.
there's gonna be, new floors and some stuff on the walls too, so. Okay, and that stuff was all covered by the grant.
I can give you this.
Okay,
Is this a recurring grant, this JCAP?
well, it's the first one we've got in 2 or 3 years. Our past judge, Jack Fabro, got several of these for us. They're available, I'm not gonna say every day, but they're available quite often. If you can show a need for safety or whatever. Okay, that's how we got some of our upgrades in the past. It's called, I have absolutely no problem with this. I hope it's approved. I think it's much needed. Okay, so if I could have a motion, if somebody.
I make a motion that we approve the amount of $1,579.20 for the procurement of 2 desks
Okay, thank you.
for the court.
Thank you. Do I have a second for that motion?
I'll second that.
Thank you. All in favor? Aye. Aye. Aye for myself, thank you. Okay.
We've moved out of public session. I just wanted to mention that the Bob Ben part in public session, that's all.
No, you're fine, go ahead.
Okay. As I mentioned to you earlier, Larry, and I mentioned, talked to, I believe Clark and Brian are on the, we've got some people that approached me and are gonna approach the board about putting good use to that Bob Ben Park. So sometime between now and the April 9th meeting, I'd like to get a meeting with these folks. They're very well organized. And get the 2 town representatives, hopefully get Alan there, Alan Messine there, and come back at the April 9th meeting with a game plan and what they want to do.
Kevin, can you tell us who's on that group of folks that you're referring to?
The guy who saw me was Josh Howell.
Okay.
Sarah Menard, Sarah Howell's husband. Sarah's on it. He had a list of names. The fellow who called, my son called me about it first, and Peter Racine Jr. is the one who contacted him about it. And he had a big list of names of businesses. He mentioned several people that are on the committee, but if I didn't write it down, so if I start picking and choosing some people and not mention other people, I wouldn't feel right. But they're all good business people.
Cross-representation between residential and commercial.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
So if Clark and Brian can make themselves available, we meet with those guys and get this going.
This room will certainly be available for meetings if you need it. Okay.
At the usual stipend.
Oh, well, interesting life. Anything else?
That's it,
That's pretty
thanks.
much it, okay, thank you. I would like a motion to approve the minutes of February 13th.
I'd like to make that motion to approve those minutes, please.
I'll second that.
Okay.
Also, a couple of minor corrections on the last page of that document. We've already talked about the fitness trailer.
Yes.
We're gonna change that to a trail.
Yes.
And the reference made to the fire hydrant problem, I did not mean to imply that we could do this without any cost. But as a follow-up to that, so I would like to have that part stricken any way you want to do it, implying that we're going to get it free.
Are we on the last page or where?
Last page, right underneath the trailer, the same paragraph.
Yes.
Okay. As a follow-up to that, I did call a couple of times. I did speak with their new regional director, and we had a nice conversation, and he was going to get back to me. Subsequent to that, Larry and I have had conversation with Mike Joliker, and it sounds like the town is going to work out some arrangement with Mike to do this work. And how that's going to transpire yet, I don't know, whether it's going to be
understand.
with
I
the...
have absolutely no problem with that.
Okay.
If it'll work out.
So E.J. Prescott will not be directly involved in the installation of those extensions.
Okay, thank you. I have a motion and a second. To approve the February 13th board minutes as amended.
Aye.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? It's carried. We have a special meeting on February 22nd. Very short one. Speaking of that, a little out of sequence here, but, we need, I don't know if Jane wrote it up, a motion to rescind. You know what I'm talking about?
Yeah.
You don't. Okay, I gotta, if you'll notice, first of all, let's approve the minutes of February 22nd. Can I have a motion to do that?
I have a problem with that. Two of us were not there. So can we really vote on this?
Nope.
Well, I think I came in late, didn't I?
Okay.
Yes.
But I think a lot of this had already been discussed.
Yes.
So I think I would abstain.
Yeah, table that till next
I
time.
was,
Okay.
I was
There's no
not there
urgency in
either.
approving that.
Just-
Okay. The other, the very second, third paragraph down, the bridge culvert, you get that one? I
Yes.
got a call today
Yes.
from the county highway superintendent to have us rescind that motion to have the county apply for the grant for us. Because he's telling me today, New York State Department of Transportation is gonna be fixing this bridge for us at absolutely no cost to us. They're fixing, I believe, 3 in 3 different towns. Can we rescind the motion before we approve it here, though? That's the,
Well, you talk about, well, you made a motion that was approved, you're talking about just rescinding the minutes.
yes,
No, you're talking about approving motions, you're talking about approving minutes, right?
yes. But
So you
I
can table that, because those minutes are the same, you still approved that motion back then. Now you make a motion to rescind the prior approval of that motion, that would go in this month's minutes.
Okay, everybody understand that? Yes.
So you're not gonna, those minutes, what happened at that meeting doesn't change, so at some point those minutes will get approved.
So I do need a motion to rescind the motion that was approved on February 22nd. So the county could apply for the grant, but now it's gonna be a state project, okay? So I need to have a motion to rescind that motion that we approved on February 22nd. Everybody understand? It's the culvert, twin culverts, I believe it is, on the Cardan Road. It was an extremely expensive project. The town, the county was gonna do it for us. We had to give them permission to apply for it. They don't need that. The Department of Transportation is gonna do it now, which is great news, I think, for us, okay? So I'd like a motion to rescind that.
I'd like to make a resolution that we rescind the resolution requesting Clinton County to act as a sponsor for replacement of the twin culvert pipes on the Cardan Road.
Okay, thank you.
I second that.
Thank you. Any questions? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carried, thank you.
Just make sure somebody makes a note, we still need to approve the minutes from that last meeting next time.
Okay. We tabled the minutes of February 22nd to be approved at a later date. Do we need, well, let's make a motion to do that properly then. Can I have a motion to do that?
I'll make a motion
Thank
to
you.
table the February 22nd minutes.
Have a second.
I'll second it.
Thank you. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carried, thank you. Okay. We have our town clerk's monthly report. We'd like to have a motion to approve.
I'll make a motion to approve the town clerk's monthly report.
Thank you.
Second.
Thank you. Any questions on the town clerk's monthly report? If not, all those in favor? Opposed? That's carried. You have your planning board minutes of March 1st. Information only. You have your JCO monthly report. There were 79 households serviced in the town of Champlain in the month of February, strictly for information. The next thing is your EMS monthly report. They've been coming to us in timely fashion.
I have a question as to why Rouse's Point hasn't provided feedback on the gallons of fuel that was used in January. Is there anybody know as to why that is?
I do not. I do not. I do believe, if I'm correct, Champlain EMS gives only partial coverage to Russ's Point. Is it daytime and not in the evenings or weekends? I believe, because they were short of help over here during the day. You can ask that question somewhere down the road.
Yeah,
I don't
I'm
know.
just curious as to
Yeah,
why.
strictly for information. PERMA, which is your Public Employee Risk Management. They have a 7-board board of directors. They're looking for nominations. I do not know of anybody in North County who's ever served on that. Strictly information. The next thing here is the Cold War Extension, Veterans Exemptions. This was originally approved back in 2008. It was that's as long as we could at that time approve it for us, 10 years, but now it's permanent. So we need to make a motion if we want to continue to make this a permanent exemption for Cold War veterans. Okay? I think, Brian, you were in on some of those conversations with,
Tim,
okay?
yeah.
I think it's a great gesture on our part.
Yeah, well, I'd like to make a resolution that we add the permanent extension of the Cold War veterans exemption to our local law.
Okay, thank you.
I'll second that.
Doesn't it have to be a local law?
It says it has to be passed prior to December 1st of 2018.
Yeah, we questioned that.
So I'm
Yes,
wondering,
Question.
No, Brian and I questioned that.
Yeah,
So it doesn't have to be local law?
so I don't, does it have to be?
The assessor didn't feel it did.
He did?
He didn't,
No.
no, but that's the assessor.
Okay.
We'll need, yeah, we will
I
need to pass
think-
a local law.
I think it does need to be a local
Yeah,
law.
we
Okay.
passed a local law last time.
So you're basically gonna take your local law, add their proposed verbiage, and that's gonna be your new local law. If I can keep this, and do you know, can you find me the current local law and email it to me,
Yeah,
maybe, and I'll get
yes,
that written up?
we just passed it.
You'll need to do, because it's gonna be a new law, public notice of that, have a special, I think probably, special hearing 15 minutes before the next, or whatever board meeting you're gonna vote on it, have a special public hearing 15 minutes before that meeting, because it's a local law that nobody
Okay.
can
So
probably
you
show
can do
up.
it for the next April 10th meeting?
Yeah, just do a special notice of publication,
April 10th.
and make it for like 6:45, pretty quick.
Okay. Thank you for the input there. Border Industrial Park, that's the old Anchor Motor Freight Building on West Service Road. That's what we always used to call it, most of us old timers. Had a leak up there, a leak on a private line that goes from Locust Street up to the building. They decided not to repair it because the new line on West Service Road was so much closer. And the pipe was put in from the new line to the building, but not installed in the building. Am I correct?
Yeah,
And this was an emergency thing. There still has to be some work done on it. There was a bill came with it. I believe it's
4557?
yeah. The hookup should be part of the project, as everybody was supposed to be hooked up. This probably cost us a shade more because it was an emergency thing during the winter months. This was done back in January, I believe it was. Yes.
It's my understanding from reading this.
Pardon?
It's my understanding from reading this, that the incorrect size line was put in.
He addresses that here. He sent me a second page separate.
Yeah.
He thought it was, to my knowledge now, it's a 1-inch line going in that building. It needs a 2-inch line.
Right.
They did not have the proper fittings at that day. They weren't available. Apparently, you can't bend a 2-inch line like you can a 1-inch line to go up into the building, so that's about as much as I know about it. But,
That sounds about right.
what?
Sounds about right for this project, doesn't it?
Yeah. What else can go wrong? Anyways, this needs to be part of the project. We're gonna have to send this bill on to get approved by,
I would send it to Anthony,
yes.
so he can do a pay app for us, so we can get,
Yes.
I mean, keep it, it doesn't need to circulate through here, have it get paid directly, it's part of the
Yes.
project.
So we just need to address it, and I want everybody to be aware of it, okay? I have no reports from the superintendent of highways other than we're waiting for spring. Our salt shed is getting low.
You see, they just bought more.
Yes,
Hopefully they're out tonight, on the road, so I can.
they probably will be.
Yeah.
They are.
You got anything, Julie? Town clerk's report? You can review your post audit bills, and you need to approve the monthly bills. Could I have a motion to do so?
I'll make a resolution to pass the post audit bills.
Monthly bills.
Monthly bills, I'm
Yes.
sorry, folks.
Thank you. Do I have a second?
I'll second that.
Thank you. Any questions on any of the monthly bills? Other than we gotta pay the bills. Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? That's also carried. The golf course, you want that executive session, or you want that?
Pending litigation.
Okay. Does anybody else have anything to bring before the board in public session?
Yes, I'd just like to
Yes, okay.
pass a resolution
Yes.
to congratulate one of our town residents on their reaching a certain age. And I'd like the town board to congratulate that person. The reason I'm not using a name is
Yes. The person's, I believe it's the end of the month here,
yes.
a milestone, let's put it that way. Okay. I have no problem with that. Is that a motion?
I'll second that.
Okay. All in favor? Opposed? Carried.
Will this be presented at a soon,
I'll be rather than
That's
senior
what I'm
housing.
hoping for.
Okay,
I want to email them, so cheap, pick up out of here. So.
Health
Gotcha.
issues right now.
Very cool.
Anything else in public session? If not, I need a motion to go into executive session to approve, to discuss litigation.
I make a motion that we go into executive session.
Okay.
I'll
Thank you.
second that.
Brian, you keep notes as far as time and stuff?
I
Thank you.
can.
Really good at it. Thank you, Kelvin.